Blank check with Griffin and David. Blank check with Griffin and David. Don't know what to say or to expect. All you need to know is that the name of the show is Blank Check.
How come the bad guys always have the good podcasts?
Hey!
What's the line being replaced there?
Cars.
Okay, yeah,
Bad guys
right.
have the good cars.
They do. They have the good cars.
This is a real car movie.
Yeah.
It really
More
is.
so than most cop films, I think. Yeah.
Well, I think back in the 80s, we did not have CGI. So the ability to do much more than cars was limited. I mean, I grew up in like the Lethal Weapon, Beverly Hills Cop kind of era of movies, which this is all in. And everything is like a cement truck chase, a cigarette truck chase, a car going. I mean, it all kind
Put
of.
them on the L.
Yeah, exactly. Like everything is like a little less than Blues Brothers, in its scope. But it's just like, can we crash cars? Can we break cars? Can we drop cars? And it was like, because there wasn't much more. And occasionally you would get something insane, like Lethal Weapon. Like, you could clearly tell that a building was ready for demolition, and like in Lethal Weapon 2 or 3, they're like, we'll make that the opening of the movie. It's like that kind of.
That was like, yes, it was usually cars, a couple shootouts, and then if you had an insane budget, you got to either use a helicopter,
Yes,
or destroy a building, and that was the ceiling.
and I would say though, the destroying the building was much more timed with where you were. Like, it was like, oh, okay, we're shooting in L.A. and they're blowing up that building. We'll just make our movie go around. Like, it was happenstance. It wasn't like they got to blow up the building. It was sort of like they jumped onto a building that was already in demolition.
We're filming in Detroit, and Detroit's not doing so well right now.
Well, that's
Guess
the whole
what? We
thing.
have a third act set piece.
There's a whole thing, like, I guess when they did the remake of, what's that movie, Red Dawn? Detroit was like, come shoot here because we will let you blow up anything you want downtown. That was like one of their selling points. I remember I was reading an oral history also about National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation, and the Griswold house is either next, I think it is the same house as Murtaugh's house from Lethal Weapon, and when they first started shooting there, Lethal Weapon had just wrapped, and the toilet was still on the front lawn from when the toilet blew out of their house, which was, again, a very big moment in the Lethal Weapon franchise.
Huge set piece.
Yeah.
Well, it goes without saying. It's obvious, but this is a podcast called Blank Check. My name is Griffin Newman.
I'm David Sims.
And this is a podcast that's usually about filmographies, directors who have massive success early on in their career and are given a series of blank checks to make whatever crazy passion projects they want. Sometimes those checks clear, and sometimes they bounce baby.
Yep.
But in between miniseries, our director-based miniseries, we often like to mix it up, do a little palate cleanser. And very often in the past, we've thrown to our beloved producer, Ben,
Sure.
and said, pick a movie that was in the rotation, one that meant a lot to you in your life, that you've seen more than any other film. Don't try to impress us. Pick the film that is nearest and dearest to your heart.
So I picked Fletch.
Right.
And
of
then
course.
Clifford.
Of course.
Sure.
And
you
then
had
Under Siege
2.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Man Who Knew Too Little.
Right.
Yeah.
Movies I watched on VHS all the time.
Right.
But we're experimenting with
Giving someone else a blank check.
giving other people the check.
Sure.
People we admire, adore, and saying, what would you use to cash your check on our show? And today we have a very, very special guest who so far has done an incredible job speaking before he's introduced, which is our favorite thing a podcast guest can do.
Very true.
He just ran straight into it.
Well, I feel like we set up a very big, what could we be talking about? We didn't mention the movie, but we talked around it, So I feel like this is probably everyone's waiting on the edge of their seat to figure out what could this be.
Which I love. It's like the cold open of like a CSI episode.
Yeah, people are putting the pieces
Establishing the
together.
mystery,
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, from How Did This Get Made, from 1,000 different movies and TV shows and the Upright Citizens Brigade Theater, Paul Scheer is our guest on the show today.
Well, I'm very excited to be a guest on your show because I listen to your show and find it immensely enjoyable. It's
mind-boggling.
So
Yeah, it doesn't make sense, but thank you very much.
Your Crystal Skull episode really helped me come to terms with that movie in many ways.
Wow.
Really?
Oh, that's
Yeah.
a good reaction, because sometimes people will get a little mad at us about that episode being, a little more gentle on that movie than some.
People get mad online about that episode.
It's funny what the listeners of my podcast, I'm sure your podcast, will get bent out of shape out of. I think, though, you kind of like I have a very negative reaction to that movie. And I went back in, and after listening to your episode, I watched it. And I stopped after the first 30 minutes and felt very content.
Right?
And I think you made me revisit it in a way, knowing it had flaws, but I was like, it is well done. And many parts of it are well done. But you made me go back and watch it, which is, I bought like the iTunes like 4-pack or whatever you get, whatever
Sure.
the ridiculous charge they make up for it. And I've never watched that one, and I went back because of your episode.
See, like that's crazy. Thank you very much. I'm glad we were able to make you appreciate at least 1/5 of Kingdom of the Crystal Skull.
I'm going to finish it
but
one
not
of
a
these
short
days.
movie.
I'm going to finish it. I find myself
sure.
enjoying movies that I didn't like a lot more when I watched them in 20-minute chunks. Like, I did that as well with, what was the movie I just did that with? Well, I'm doing it right now with Rogue One. And I'm like, I thought Rogue One
Very
was
episodic
good.
movie.
Yeah. Well, in a way, it kind of, like, I've stopped it at points. I've been using it on the treadmill, and I'm like, I like this movie way more than I give it credit for. I'm totally engaged in it. And I feel like sometimes, like even Avengers, the first Avengers movies that I've had like a little bit of a sour taste in my mouth, and I'm like, I think if I just watch it piecemeal, I can. Man, I don't know if it's
You're binge watching them.
Yeah.
You're turning them into a TV show and binge watching them.
Well, I feel like, especially in this like bombastic $250 million mega movie era, when you have to sit in a theater and watch the whole thing, very oftentimes it can just become like tiring.
Yes.
And overwhelming. And some of these films that like don't work but have interesting elements or pieces or sections, if you're just taking like 20 minutes on their own, you can sort of appreciate the things that you just forget by the end of the film when you've just been like worn down.
It's, to me, I call it the ghost story version of it. I'm not sitting there eating the whole pie. I'm just going to have one slice at a time.
Sure.
I'll eventually finish the pie, and I'll be happier for it. If I eat that whole pie, I'm going to just run in that bathroom and throw up.
Right. Now, you picked a movie today that I would argue is like the opposite of that. I think the whole value of this movie is sort of just living in it and hanging out in this film.
This is from a bygone era where movies could be like kind of like set piece, like there's one set piece, a little lighter on plot. It's a lot of just character, hanging out and just sort of like, being real.
Yeah, I think that this movie does something very interesting, right? I think that you hear this term like the buddy cop movie, and there's all these like, I think Lethal Weapon is kind of defined as like the ultimate, Freebie and the Bean is great too, but like there's like Lethal Weapon I think is the one that's looked up to, and it's like, and they add a little bit of comedy. This to me is one of the perfect buddy cop comedy action movies because I think it's legitimately funny. It's got good fun action, and the cast is insane. Like I feel like if there were more movies like this, the buddy cop thing wouldn't have gotten so tired.
Well, because this movie is not trying to make the buddies be these like diametrically different, like really polarized two guys who are clashing, and there's a lot of push and pull. Like they're real buddies.
They're friends. They're legitimately friends. I don't know if there's any other. I mean, it's kind of like the sequel of a movie where it started like it's like Riggs and Murtaugh is number 2, but it starts off as number 1. And I know we still haven't told anyone what we're talking about yet, but again,
and we won't until the very end of the episode.
Oh, is that the bit we're doing? I don't think so.
We're never going to name the movie. No, but I don't know if you know this, Paul. I know you say you listen to the show, but we are, David and I, we're #the two friends. It's a competitive advantage. We're the only two friends that do a podcast together. And once we tapped into that. We said, why wouldn't everyone do this? Friends should do podcasts together. What a good combination. And I feel like a lot of the films, what you were saying, a lot of the films that get lumped in as being buddy films, I mean, certainly Lethal Weapon 1, they don't get along very well.
No.
And even when you get into the sequels, they've obviously gotten a little closer, but they frustrate each other.
They're very push and pull, and they usually have some second act part, where they're sort of, they break apart maybe, or they're like opposed in some way. You know what I mean? Like,
yes.
There's usually some sort of like artificial rom-com arc to the buddy cop movie.
And 48 Hours is always cited as like a big buddy cop movie. It's like, A, one of them isn't even a cop. B,
True.
they hate each other.
Right.
Yeah.
But I watched this and I was like, this movie's putting the buddy in buddy cop.
Well, I think what you get when you put them together is you get comedy. Like, and I think because they're on the same page, so they're working together as like a team, not just being like, I'm one archetype, you're one archetype. You know, it's like the it's like, and I think it's just rare. I can't think of any other movie where, I mean, it feels more in tone with like a Pineapple Express than it does with anything else. Like, you know, it's like these are people who are friends. But even Pineapple Express, it's like they're different, you know, to a certain degree.
Yeah, very different. Yeah.
Right. But this feels like Pineapple Express 2 after they've like...
Yes.
That's, I mean, right.
I
what
think
you
you
said
nailed it
about
with
it being
that.
a sequel, that like, because it just opens where they're like, they're playing basketball or hanging out, you know, they're kind of breaking each other's balls a little bit, but like, it's just, the movie's just like, they're friends, okay? You got it? Great.
Yeah.
Like, let's move on.
Well, the thing I find really fascinating, you know, you come out of improv, of course.
Yeah.
And you're a phenomenal improviser.
Oh, you guys.
But one of those things they teach very early on in long form improv is like, you don't have to create that conflict. You'll find more comedy if you agree with your scene partner, you know? Because a lot of people when they're starting out think the funny thing is to be like a stick in the mud and negate what the other person's doing. And that's the whole principle of yes and. And this movie is just like, oh, if you start out with the two guys being on the same page and they can have fun together, it unlocks certain types of comedy you're not used to seeing in these kinds of movies that aren't them arguing about which way they should go in on the bad guy.
Right.
It's just them being funny people together. It's like hanging out with friends.
Exactly. And should we tell people what we're talking about?
Yes, come on. I mean, for one, it's the title of the episode, so they downloaded it.
Okay.
But, you know, they may be thinking that we're talking about the Paul Walker version of it.
Well, that one comes up a lot in Google, even though it was a bomb.
Yeah.
I mean, a forgotten film.
And I also look at
And
IMDb.
this was like a solid hit. This was like a
This was a hit, yeah.
a reasonably popular movie.
a double or a triple.
Yeah. I think this movie does not get its due in the pantheon of 48 Hours, Lethal Weapon,
Right.
Beverly Hills Cop. Like, you never hear this movie talked about. And that's why I chose, here we go, I'm going to say it. I mean, even though you've downloaded it.
Oh boy, drum roll.
Running Scared, the 1986 Billy Crystal, Gregory Hines buddy cop movie, which...
From the director of 2010.
Yes.
Universal Soldier, right?
and
Did
Time
you direct-
Cop.
No, Time Cop.
Oh, Time Cop. Sorry, Time Cop.
Peter Hyams. And with the villain being a very brilliantly cast young Jimmy Smits, who introduced me to the whole idea of a Colombian necktie. To me, that was the scariest thing you could possibly do, which is like you slit through someone's throat and I guess you pull their tongue down beneath it so it hangs out from the throat hole.
Which...
they don't do
I
it.
spent 10 minutes trying to figure out how you would do that.
Yeah, it doesn't
When
really
when
work. It doesn't work.
How would you pull the tongue all the way down there?
The physics of it are messy.
Yeah, you'd have to
I
almost
don't
cut the
think-
tongue out too. There would be a lot of work.
It would be so much work.
I don't think it's easy. I don't think it's worth the effort. I mean, you know, look, it certainly leaves a lasting effect.
Yeah, 100%.
Right.
And
yeah, it's memorably gross.
But they don't show it, which is good. And again, it's one of those things. It's an R-rated film. They don't show extreme violence. As a matter of fact, this movie is about cowards. Not
that's
cowards.
true.
There are two good Chicago cops who kind of get into a situation early on where they get scared. Like literally, they're like, "Oh fuck, we almost died." The
they're
chief
in over their heads.
Yeah, and the chief is like, go on vacation. Then we get one of the best, I mean, we'll talk about all of this, but one of the best vacation montages of all time.
Unbelievable. I might say number one.
Yeah, I mean, it is amazing. And then they come back going, hey, fuck this. We don't want to be cops anymore. we want to like go move to Key West and open a bar. And we basically have a couple more like. It's like they're both retiring. Like, in Lethal Weapon, it's like, I'm over that retirement. It's like, they're both like, we both need to just lay low until we can get out. And
it's the only cop movie I can think of where the cops spend most of the running time trying to decide whether or not to stay on the case.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Like, the cops almost abandon the plot of the movie.
Yeah, the cops are like, we don't want to go in there. And again, one of the reasons why I love this movie is because it seems it's coming from an honest place. Like, these are, it's Gregory Hines and Billy Crystal, Tap dancer, and like an SNL and the TV show Soap star. Like, they're not super intimidating cops, which I think is also lovely to see. Like, I don't feel like, I don't feel like every cop is, Dolph Lundgren and Jim Belushi from like Red Heat or whatever. Sorry, Schwarzenegger. But and you get like, I don't know, there's something about it that is like very grounded. And
agreed.
And I will just say, like, so I grew up. I don't know how this movie came into my life, but I think
that was my first question.
I would imagine.
How did you discover this movie?
I would imagine this is how it came in. My dad was a great conduit of all things cool for me, and I loved Saturday Night Live. I had the Billy Crystal comedy album called "You Look Marvelous." I should say it the way that Fernando would say it. These all are references that are just flying over. I'm sure like 95% of your listeners had. But it's a Billy Crystal, this like comedy album, and I love this. I love Billy Crystal. Billy Crystal was to me what comedy was. So. In my dad's like truest fashion, I think he saw that this was a comedy that had relatively little violence, and one scene of nudity that he could cut out, because my dad had like 2 VHS players, so he would like give me movies like Armed and Dangerous with like Eugene Levy and John Candy, and cut out like any potential boobs, and like Beverly Hills Cop.
He would make home edits?
He would make home edits.
That's incredible.
He would, so when I saw Beverly Hills Cop 1 and 2 later on, I was like, oh wow, these are edited scenes, because he cut out like the whole beginning of Axel Foley's friend getting killed, and he's like, that was too violent, and getting like shot in the back of the head. I didn't see either of the strip club scenes, so like I had a whole world open to me after my dad's home edit. So I believe that that's how I got this movie, and it was on VHS. I watched it a ton. And I did this thing that I've talked about on my podcast before, but where I would record movies on like a tape, like a recorder, like a tape deck thing. And I would listen to movies. And that, I would say, we talked about in the beginning, like, how many times you've watched this movie? Yes, I've watched this movie a lot. I've listened to it probably the most out of any movie, because I remember, having the tape. I had the whole movie on tape. And, listening, I have visceral images of us, my class, driving to Washington, D.C. on a field trip, sitting in the back of the bus, listening to Running Scared. I remember it so clearly.
Ding dong.
All right.
Ding dong.
All right. Get
Okay.
Come on.
Oh, my God. What? Hello?
Hello.
Hi, it's me. It's Griffin from 2 months from now.
Oh, wow. You're from the future?
Yeah, maybe you notice a little difference in me.
Ben?
Yeah,
I mean, I don't want to be,
You look really good.
superficial.
Kind of swole,
but
kind of
yeah.
jacked, kind of good thick.
busting out of the shirt a little bit.
Yeah, I'm Wolf Manning all over the place.
Yeah, you're Wolf Manning.
Yeah, you can call me Griff B.
Okay.
Like the B universe.
Oh, sure,
I'm not
sure.
from a different universe. I'm from a different
Let's not get
future
too knotted up in this.
timeline. Could call me Griff 2049.
Hey,
Maybe we could call you Griff B because you've been using Beachbody?
Oh!
Maybe that's why.
That's actually not a bad idea.
Yeah.
So you know my secret. That's the difference between me and this cuck Griff over here.
I hazarded a guess because our friends at Beachbody On Demand are sponsoring this episode.
And also, hey, Griff A here, please don't use that term.
Griff B, come on.
Yeah.
I mean, what have you been doing?
What have I been doing? I've been working out on my own clock off my own devices.
So, like a laptop, a tablet,
Yeah.
a smartphone,
Yeah.
any web-enabled device,
Yeah, like an Amazon Kindle Fire, pretty much anything,
your
I think.
TV,
Yeah.
as long as it's on the internet.
Yeah.
can I ask though, Griff B, What what regimen are you like? Is there like a particular like video you're watching on this service?
Yeah. Look, I mean, I'm all about branding, right? I'm the branding king.
Sure.
And my brand is insanity.
Okay. But they've got it all.
Wait, but you're saying
No. He's saying he's doing insanity workouts.
Oh, that's. Sure.
Well,
we can
actually,
debate.
double meaning.
We
I was
can
going to say
debate.
my brand is also I'm a straight lunatic.
But I mean, they've got it. They've got P90X.
Yeah.
They got like 21 day fix. They've got all the like those regimens you might have heard of.
3-week yoga retreat.
Sure.
Yeah.
And they have nutritional content,
Mhm.
health and fitness advice.
Yeah.
It's a whole package, all online, and you don't even need to go to a gym.
Yeah, I mean, I don't understand why you're pitching this to me. I'm the guy who's been benefiting from this program. Pitch it to this beta male over here.
Oh, I was talking right to Griffey. I'm sorry. You guys are easy to get confused, even though one of you is just going to say it.
Yeah.
A little hot.
Yeah, just look for which guy is in a tattered shirt, and that's the one you shouldn't be speaking to.
All right, well, Griffey, listen
Yeah.
up.
Hey, what's up?
Because these workouts, they can be low impact. You could do dance. Like, it doesn't have to be something intense.
Oh,
they
I'd love
have
to do dance. Hey, dude, warning from the future, don't do dance.
They have a variety of like options for like whatever speed you want to go at, and you can try all of these 600 workouts and the nutritional information for free.
Oh, that sounds great.
You just have to text check to 303030.
So you check to make sure
Nope.
that you have texting
You get
covered
hung
in
up
your
on
phone
this
plan?
sometimes. But what you do is you get a free trial membership when you text check to 303030.
Now, here's a question. What if I don't want to work out, but I like the idea of being able to watch workout videos all the time? Like, that's just my favorite kind of content.
I mean, no one's going to judge you for that except, perhaps Almighty God. But
Right. So maybe that's a good angle to sell that would differentiate us from other podcasts.
Sure.
A different revenue stream, people who just like...
If you want to just give it
Workout
a try
videos?
and just watch workout videos and judge them aesthetically,
I mean, you can do that.
doesn't really matter. All you have to do is text check to 303030. You'll get full access to the whole platform for free, all the workouts, all the nutritional information. And if you want to try an annual subscription, it's cheaper than a gym membership.
Yeah.
right.
So take note, Griff A. Thank you, Griff B. I'm going to head out. This is Griff B talking.
Don't walk through the wall like that.
Oh,
Oh, my
I
God.
can barely help it. One step and I'm already shredding through the concrete.
Destroyed the studio.
He's so strong.
Yeah.
All right.
God, that was so much fun having someone who has the exact same voice as me in the studio.
He looks a lot better though.
He does look a lot better. I mean, I do.
Now, I was like a big soundtrack kid growing up. You know, I would have like
Me
a
too.
CD wallet full of movie soundtracks.
Sure.
And I would keep the little booklet in there.
Did you like soundtracks or scores or both?
Both.
Okay.
Yeah.
Both.
Right.
But I would like to have the booklet, and when I was listening to the soundtrack, look through it and try to find a photo that, even if it wasn't that scene
Was
particular,
evocative?
was evocative because I wanted to sort of replay the scenes in my head.
Oh,
now, when you
absolutely.
were listening to Running Scared, especially during the sections where there aren't dialogue.
Yeah. You're just hearing a
Were you
car
trying-
on the L. Yeah.
Right. Or like the vacation montage, which
Yeah.
is, you know.
Well, right. I was going to ask, how does the montage play on tape?
Right. Are
Well, by
you
the way,
in your
it's a
head
great-
reconstructing the images?
By the way, it's a great song. So it was
Yeah,
a pleasure
it
to listen. It was almost like a musical interlude. I'm trying to think of how I did it. I believe that I would just be, I guess the way that you would listen to a book on tape. You know, like creating the images. I knew I knew the movie so well. I could just kind of sit back and kind of let it take me for a journey. You know, these guys are great actors. And by the way, you take away the images, the movie still holds up.
Yeah. They have such a good rapport in this. And the thing you said, which I really like, that jumped out to me immediately is, I feel like when you get to this era where like Hollywood is buddy cop crazy, right?
Yeah.
This is like their whole thing that they're trying to do. It's like a pretty economic, very viable genre, and just becomes like, who are two mismatched guys that you
Right.
can put together? I feel like you get a lot of guys, especially when they're dudes like Hines or Crystal, because usually
Yeah.
these movies will have one guy who makes sense in this type of movie, one guy who doesn't.
Right.
And this movie has two guys who feel like odd choices for this type of movie.
Bizarre.
And very often the Belushi of the film, right? The Jim Belushi of the film will try his hardest to prove that he's not the odd thumb.
Right.
Right?
He'll be like the tough, serious guy.
He'll do like a Clint Eastwood impression. He'll try to do his best, Gene Hackman or whatever, to hold his own. And I like in this movie, these two guys aren't doing the sort of obvious big swinging dick depiction of cop masculinity. They're kind of just playing their own types.
Sure.
And just being okay cops.
And by the way,
simultaneously.
don't you believe it? Because like one of the biggest scenes where they are beating someone up, and again, I'm gonna just put a blanket statement down and say everyone in this movie is amazing, and we'll talk about them all. But Joe Pantoliano, who plays like this character Snake, and they're like that's like the first guy that they kind of bust. And they kind of like torture him, but they're torturing him in a way that seems so believable. Like they get him, they're running after him. They throw him, they get into a tattoo shop, right? They throw him, well, that maybe, and then and they throw him into a chair, and they basically are tricking him into the fact that they're giving him like a tattoo, like it's like, and then even their plan with him backfires. Like, but it's like when they are being tough,
they're basically just hassling him.
Yes.
Yeah.
And at the end of the movie, when Billy Crystal does have his big moment when his ex-wife is kidnapped and he's got to show up, you buy. It's very much the reason why I love like Die Hard as well. Like Die Hard, when you first meet John McClane, you don't think that this guy is like, there's something human about him. And these guys too, like they're put in a crazy situation. And when Billy Crystal does confront everybody there, you buy like, well, fuck, he's like. This is him trying to be as tough as he can be, and that it's the same way like when Gregory Hines is like on the side of the building, gonna like launch into like his thing was like he's a window like he like like they say to Billy Crystal like come alone in this big glass building. Billy Crystal comes alone, but then Gregory Hines is like a window washer, so he could drop in from the ceiling. But he seems scared. Like they're not adept at doing it. Like even like at least John McClane at a certain point like becomes very adept at everything. They never get adept,
Right. This is like The Other Guys if The Other Guys wasn't a parody. Other Guys is trying to like totally mock all the sort of tropes of these kinds of movies. And this is like a fairly grounded, realistic movie about cops who just usually aren't on the big case.
Yeah, and by the way, I would argue that like Wahlberg is you don't even have a Wahlberg in this. Like at least in Wahlberg, like you get like there's like something there. Yeah, I don't know. There's something about this movie that is, and I think it's rewatchable. It's really fun. It does have all the 80s things, a lot of great car crashes. They have a whole scene. I mean, one of the best, I guess, heightened moments in the movie is that they create this, like they have this guy like their cue for whatever reason like that's where the movie just like takes a one jump out of reality where it's like they have an auto shop at the police department and they're
Larry Hankin
the guy from Friends, the neighbor,
who again
Mr.
another
Chuckles Heckles,
a great character actor, like creates them like not an indestructible car, but again it's so funny. It's like he's like this is a car that's essentially bulletproof. It's a cab. It looks like a cab. It's bulletproof. They get in this cab and they have this crazy chase that ends up on the L, and they're like cars are firing at them, and they're like, "Fuck you, haha! We don't. It's bulletproof." And then they go to roll down their window to fire back, but they can't because the car is bulletproof because they can't. And I was like, I love like it's just fun. Like I don't know. It's like it doesn't like what you said. It's grounded in the world. Like all right, if they were going to create a bulletproof car, they're not going to be able to open the windows. So they do get away, but then they're totally left being idiots again.
Yeah, and another thing I love about talking about this movie being grounded in the world, and I think this is a thing we'll harp on a lot because it's the thing that kept on jumping out to me as like we don't have anything like this today. But the thing I like about it is they are neither great cops nor terrible cops.
Right.
They're okay. They're good.
They're just kind of okay.
I mean, they know how to like cause some trouble,
right?
And they know how to like keep on the right side of things.
They're not inept, but they're not rock stars.
No,
they're just kind of workaday cops,
right?
Yeah,
they're big revelation is when Billy Crystal breaks the porcelain thing and it's Coke, but like it's almost by mistake. Like, they don't do like great detective work or anything. They sort of work their sources and they lean on folks and they know how to like run a few hustles.
Right, and there's that thing early on when the two guys try to mug them and they go like, "What, you think all cops dress like cops? Run around in like a cop car?"
And one of them's got like a gun in like a paper bag. I can't figure out what that contraption is. What was your point?
No, it's just like these are just like two schmoes.
Yeah,
like,
they're just cool.
Like they're just like cops you wouldn't really take notice of
They're
otherwise. But
and they're constantly getting like they're constantly getting found out. Like they're not like this. Like they're not like when they park in their spot. Someone comes and spray paints like unmarked cop car on them when they try to get
hilarious.
And when they try to get an informant, the informant like turns on them. When they're roughing up a nun, and the nun is not the right person, even though she is, but she's not culpable in it. And then I think all that culminates even in their vacation, which is like oddly sweet. Like their vacation is like they're just like fishing and like dating, like seeing women. It's like it's very
remembering how to relax. You know, it feels like they're tapping into something they've forgotten about themselves. Like, oh, you could just hang out.
I guess we should start at the beginning of the movie, but I just want to make a blanket statement here because both names have been invoked, and I know you've listened to the show, but I know you're not a completist.
Two favorites of this podcast are in
two
this
important
movie.
things to state about this show. One is that we are very vehemently pro-Smiths.
Yeah, we're super pro-Smiths.
Pro-Smiths, no bits,
pro-Smiths. By the way,
you got to be pro-Smiths.
Speaking of watching Rogue One the other day, I was like, man, Smiths, so good.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
He just pops in 5 minutes. He dusts some like pepper, and then he's out.
I mean, that's the origin of our pro-Smith stance. Is no steadier hand in the galaxy than Bail Organa. That guy comes in, you relax.
You are almost like, and I actually thought to myself when I was on the treadmill the other day, like, man, I would see like a Bail Organa movie. I would
100%.
Is it him like leaning on other galactic senators? Is it like all backroom dealing? Like, what is a Bail Organa movie?
I want to see like Bridge of Spies with Bail Organa.
That'd be great. Yeah, he has to go. Yes, he has to go get someone.
I mean, look, Leia didn't learn it from no one. Look, he's out in front, but he's working deals under the table too. He's got a public face, private face.
Maybe the movie is just like Pursuit of Happiness with Bail Organa and Little Leia.
Yeah.
Maybe it's just a good father movie.
I love it. I'll take that.
The other important stance we just have to get out here on the table is there are a few things that we love more than putting on a fine pair of Italian pants.
Right.
If we get to put on some Joey pants, we are thrilled.
And by the
way, some snakeskin Joey pants.
Snakeskin pants.
Can we talk about where this Joey Pants falls in your pantheon of pants? Yeah, because
100%. Yes.
I put this one up pretty high because it's a different pants than we normally see in a way, or at least in my version of it. It's a real Weasley, a real Weasley guy.
Yeah, and he's always kind of squirrely, but usually he's faking it better. This is a pants who cannot even pretend that he has any authority.
Yes.
I also just like that he hangs around. Like, you think he's just going to be the problem for the first scene. Like, he'll around. And instead, he's just kind of like chilling with them for the first half hour of the movie.
He's their Pesci for the first act.
Right, yeah. He had been in Risky Business already.
But he wasn't in Midnight Run.
Midnight Run's a couple years later, so this is he's still early in the pants career.
That's what I'm saying. It's kind of an early role from. I would say the other person. I mean that I know it's not a official one of your podcast sanctioned.
No, sure.
But I gotta say, whenever I see Dan Hedaya, I'm on
the
board.
king.
I mean, listen to this cast. This cast is insane.
I know.
Dan Hedaya, who always plays a man whose blood pressure is like dangerous, like whose doctor is like just stressed out about the guy's blood pressure and wishes he would take the pills.
Do you know, this is a fact, I've heard this, because Paul, you work on shoots, you talk to the crew, you start to hear some inside gossip, right? People tell you stories that don't usually leak out to the public. So I don't know if I should be sharing this, but this is true. This is a known fact in Hollywood. Dan Hedaya has never worn a shirt on screen. They just dye his chest and back hair different colors.
I have heard that. Yeah. It's a thing. It's to make him more comfortable, really.
100%.
Right, yeah.
That's his process.
That's his rider.
Yeah.
But you know what? I'd also argue like Dan Hedaya is what every other and I would even play Joey Pants is copying Dan Hedaya. Like Joey Pants in Bad Boys is copying Dan Hedaya in this movie.
100%.
Totally agree. Yes.
This is kind of like peak disgruntled Captain.
Yes, you can't get a better disgruntled. Like this is where it was really coming into vogue. This is everything you need. Yeah.
But again, like before these movies make the disgruntled captain like too big, and
before it becomes a cliche,
and he has like a 5-minute monologue chewing him out in his office. He's just sort of in the background. He's hanging around. He's like, you know,
this movie is at like the right, perfect place in the bell curve where it's just the sort of enough other buddy cop films have field tested what works and what doesn't, and you're just at cruising altitude. Nothing has become overworn yet.
The only one that I will say who pushes the limits, but I think is probably the best cop is actually a real cop. I don't know if you know who I'm going to mention here, but it is the real chief of police in Detroit who played Axel Foley's boss in Beverly Hills Cop, who comes down and balls out Eddie Murphy. And I always put him as the number one because that was his actual job. And he said the thing that made me, he goes, "Don't think, Axel, it makes my dick itch." When I was a kid, I thought that was one of the best lines. I didn't know. I was like, one day I'll understand it. And I don't even know if I understand. I just like it. I just that line is burnt into my head.
Itchy dick,
yeah.
Sounds no good.
Yeah, but he is, his name is Gilbert R. Hill. Gil Hill. I think he became the mayor of Detroit at a certain point.
He did?
Yeah.
You're right, yes.
And
oh my gosh.
And was a real was a real inspector. So I feel like out of anyone, we should always be looking to him for the frustrated police officer.
Sure. You say he's the
he did
top
it.
of the pyramid.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, I had a phase where I was really into the IMDb message boards, R.I.P., gone but never forgotten.
It's a brutal thing.
Brutal place.
But I was really into that like early 2000s. And a game I got really into was, I love character actors. I think, we do. And I would pick certain, like favorite character actors like Joey Pants and go to their IMDb message board to see who's talking about Joey Pants on a daily basis,
yeah,
who's logging on just to talk about Joey Pants. And inevitably, any character actor I picked, no matter how unconventional looking, how obscure, there would be someone starting a thread with a subject heading like, "Is it just me or ... And then you'd click on it and it was, he's incredibly sexy, right? And it would be someone just making it clear that guy was their specific fetish.
Okay, so we're on the same page. I know where you're going with
Hedaya, I had this thread.
Oh, we're not on the same page.
That I always think about like even Hedaya, where it was like 25 women going like, I can't explain what it is.
I mean, he's got an animal energy.
That's what I said. Yes, I see the tufts of hair coming out from his collar.
There's a flavor for everyone.
For everybody.
He's like a really smoky soup, where it's like sort of like the flavor like really hits you, but you're like, well, I like it though. Yeah.
Gotta get that high day.
I thought you were going to say, because I was saying this to Ben before we recorded, how handsome Billy Crystal is.
Billy Crystal's weirdly sexy in this movie.
Really hot.
Yeah.
Billy Crystal, by the way, when you see this movie, you go, oh, I get it. I get why this guy was a star. I get why he...
100% get it.
And by the way, you get, like, he is very cute, but like also like there's something in this movie that I don't know. I mean, it's the Harry Met Sally. It's like that era. Yeah. Billy Crystal is boom, perfect.
Yeah, he's aged nicely. I think this is him in his 30s. Is sort of him because he's got a little around the eyes, and his hair's receded a little bit.
The beard is great.
The beard is nice.
Great. Really helps his face.
He just looks like I don't know. He just looks like someone you could go see like a. Who's an 80s auteur? Like, go see My Dinner with Andre with, and,
Sure.
Nice dinner.
But there's a very... Yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
No, I just think there's a relaxed energy to this performance that I think of Billy Crystal as, the main criticism you can throw at Billy Crystal, aside from the fact that he still does impressions of black people, is that, like, there's a sort of needy, like, desperate validation
wanted kind of energy to him sometimes, like this sort of like endless showman sort of vibe.
Right.
But this has the same thing that like When Harry Met Sally does, where it's like, this is a weirdly confident Jew. Like, we're not used to seeing these on screen, you know? This is a Jew who feels pretty good about what he's got.
And here's what I'll say about that specifically. And I think this is all, and this, when I watched it recently again, I was like, when he does his characters, like, and again, this is a time when, like, Eddie Murphy, I keep on going back to Eddie Murphy because I feel like he was,
he's the king of the 80s cop movie. Yeah.
Right. When he's doing his characters, it's like showpieces. And these characters that he does in this movie, like the small little, like, phone stuff,
right. Just little sprinkles.
It's sprinkled, it's subtle, and it also feels real. Like, like, I don't know if I believe that Axel Foley is going in, carrying a lunch bag going, I got this or I got the herpes medication. But this is just like mainly on the phone. Like, he's basically doing prank phone calls to help get there's something very subtle about doing something that is, I think, a lot of the times in these movies are very much like showpieces. Like, all right, get ready, sit back and relax. And it
feels like a real guy trying to be funny rather than a movie star looking for a pop.
Can I just say it feels very, I feel like this movie is the Impractical Jokers of the buddy cop world. Like, it's just a bunch of friends having fun, making each other laugh.
And that's where them being friends really helps, is because when he's doing characters and stuff, you cut to a reaction shot of Gregory Hines just being like, I like this guy.
Yeah.
I read some interview with Peter Hyams, who directed this movie.
And shot it.
And shot it, yes, because he shoots his movies. Where he didn't say much except like, I just thought it'd be great to have Gregory Hines and Billy Crystal be in a movie together, and I was right. They totally loved each other. Like, that was all he had to say.
Yeah.
So I guess they hit it off.
Well, we did we did Time Cop on our show, and then we have this guy Blake Harris, and Blake is this amazing, like, he wrote this great book called Console Wars, and he gets these really good oral histories, and so he got Peter Hyams to talk, and I was like, please just get any information about Running Scared. And and he talked to him, and it's very much similar. It's like, yeah, that was a fun movie. But I think what he has a good talent for is finding the right vehicle for actors. And I say that in the sense that he was like, he knew how to make Time Cop work for Jean-Claude Van Damme more than any other Jean-Claude Van Damme movie, in my opinion. Like, that movie is more of a movie than most Jean-Claude Van Damme movies, if that makes sense.
Yes. And the other movie he made with Jean-Claude Van Damme, Sudden Death, is the like second best Jean-Claude Van Damme movie. They had each other. They were on the right wavelength for some reason.
He knew how to
could work the athleticism in better than most.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like Jean-Claude's going to do the splits now, and like, don't worry, I've constructed a whole set piece that's going to make sense for that.
Yeah, it really. Peter Hyams, I think, is he's an interesting director because he also directed one of my favorite movies. I don't know if it's. I say it's my favorite, but it's a movie that I enjoy, which is whatchamacallit, Capricorn 1, which
that's another big movie.
Yeah,
right? Yeah.
I think
with
it's
O.J. Simpson.
Yeah, O.J. Yeah, and it's a really. If you have not seen Capricorn 1, check it out. It's really fun. It's it's faking the moon landing kind of inspired. I also grew up on the more sexy Presidio, which was like Mark Harmon and Sean Connery and Meg Ryan. Very beautiful Meg Ryan. Like, as a kid, I was like, oh, Meg Ryan. And that was he has some interesting films. I remember he directed that movie The Relic, right? I think, which is
I remember that. It's like a solid creature feature from the mid '90s.
Everything that he's done is pretty solid. Like, and Star Chamber is really good too. It's like, they got a bunch. Yeah.
He's like a utility player. Like, he'll get on base. He's good. He may not be like a great artiste, but he's good.
He's the Joey Pants of directing. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, he's like,
very true.
I like him. I have nothing bad to say about this guy. And when you hear his interview we have like a spin-off podcast, Origin Stories. It's great. He's got that energy. Just like, and he's like, he's honest. He's like, I don't think Jean-Claude Van Damme's a good actor. He's like, but I figured I could make it work.
He also, his son is like one of the best directors of direct-to-video action films around right now.
Really?
Who's his son?
He did the last 3
straight-to-video Universal Soldier sequels, which is why I thought...
those are good.
They're really good, and Hyams shot one of them.
John Hyams, uh-huh.
Right, but Peter Hyams he lensed his son's direct-to-video...
And Jean-Claude Van Damme is in those.
Yes.
At least in one of them.
And Lundgren.
Yeah, so they're keeping it real.
Universal Soldier Day of Reckoning, which I think is the fourth one.
That everyone, all the like film nerds flipped out about.
It rules. It's so good, and it's also totally
it.
self-contained. You don't have to have seen any of the other films.
Feeling some ennui?
I'm just so tired of waiting, David.
What are you waiting for, Griff?
I'm waiting to find good hires.
Oh, that's been going on?
Yeah.
You've been posting like a job to job sites
And
that you want to hire for.
And waiting for the right people to see it.
You've made a huge mistake.
Yeah,
I don't want to be
clearly.
judgmental, but you made a huge mistake in not using ZipRecruiter.
Oh, right.
Because the ZipRecruiter learns what you're looking for. It identifies people with the right experience, and it invites them to apply to your job. You don't have to do the work.
That's the problem. I've been collecting rats from the sewer and telling them what I look for, and they, A, don't seem to process the information, and B, don't bring any results back to me.
I got to be honest. I mean, ZipRecruiter includes like a lot of different job sites.
Yeah.
Not sure if they include the rat network.
Well, I'm saying I'm willing to move on from the rat network because I dispatched those rats 6 months ago and I've gotten 0 results back. I haven't even seen them again.
And you have the bubonic plague, which is an issue.
I do, but we'll get to that another time, just like the woman from the Dixie Chicks.
But in fact, 80% of employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate through the site in just one day. You've been waiting 6 months?
Yeah, that's about 6 months less than I've been waiting.
Right. Oh, it's about 6 months.
Yeah,
exactly.
Give or take a day.
It's just one day you could get a quality candidate. The right candidates are out there. ZipRecruiter is how you find them.
I didn't even think about quality candidates.
No, they're good candidates.
Yeah, because I was ready to settle for bad.
And businesses of all size, from corporations to one weird actor guy.
No,
they
to be
trust
fair,
ZipRecruiter.
I'm kind of a massive corporation.
Yeah, that's true. Griff Corp.
There's room for aggressive
Griftopia?
expansion.
I forget what it's called.
Well, let's not divulge business secrets on the podcast.
Well, right now, our listeners can try ZipRecruiter for free. That's right, for free.
Just good price.
Go to ZipRecruiter.com/blank.
Okay, so I go to ZipRecruiter.com and I make sure everything is blank after that.
No, it's you go to ZipRecruiter.com/blank, ZipRecruiter.com/blank.
Okay.
And you can try it for free. It's the smartest way to hire.
I should probably go to the doctor first, though, right? Because this plague thing is getting bad.
You know, friendly advice, sure.
Okay, but let's try to jump into the plot of the movie.
Bit, yeah.
So a thing I like, and I think this is a real Hyams quality, is that Chicago is just unpleasant in this movie.
A bird just took a shit on Chicago in this movie. It's just like dirty snow everywhere.
And it again... I know. Well, it'll just go with we've already said it, but it is just. It feels like this is the way low tier drug bus, crappy crappy apartments. Like it's one of those movies where you feel like everything is shot on location. There's no real sets.
Yes.
They're in
100%.
real, and that's what I love. Like I love a shitty city apartment. As someone who lived in New York for many years, like when they have that chase through the apartment building, it was like, oh yeah, I've been in those apartment buildings in the Bronx. I've been in those. Like I know what that is. I smell that building.
And it's this thing I miss now in cop comedies, which I think the modern ones are mostly kind of like a postmodern riffing on this era. Is like when the stakes feel real and the world they're in feels tactile. Like here's a funny person in a real crime scenario.
Yeah.
And this movie looks grimy, feels dangerous, and then these guys just have a funny, relaxed energy.
Well, yeah, they're like you said, they're workaday cops, and like even when they go back to their the precinct, even though it's lit very dark and everything like that, it feels like a real cop. Like it just feels like grimy, it doesn't. It's not pushing it. It's not super futuristic. They don't have any super tools, and even the dudes that in a very other guy's way, this movie they have two cops that are kind of like the younger
the
versions.
Rival cops.
One of them
Stephen
played
Bauer
by
and John Grease.
Yeah, John Grease is great.
I love those guys because they're like the ones who are like they're really method about it.
Yeah.
They've grown their hair out and they think they are such hot shit.
And I love that. It's and it's such a funny game for them too. Like
it's like they're the actors who just booked a one-liner on a sitcom.
Yeah.
And the dude who's on episode 200 is like, kid, you don't have to work this hard. Just hit your marks and say the words.
All right. So the beginning of the movie is they catch Joey Pants.
Well, first of all,
they're running at. Well, they're playing basketball.
They're playing basketball and wearing scarves.
Crystal gets socked in the face.
Yeah.
Which is, I guess, that's a good opening. Like, that's a good entry into the world Peter Hyams wants us to be in, right? It's like you could be playing pickup basketball and some like skinny white guy is going to punch you in the face.
And these guys are like integrated into this city. You know, they're not just like cops staying in their precinct.
Yeah, it's like I feel like it's like they're out. They're there, like it's a funny scene because like they're playing basketball like with the but they're also not good. Like it's like they are. It's a lot is going on in that opening scene because it's like I think it's trying to make you feel like they are in this city, but the way they are in the city is not even that cool. You know, it's like
no,
right.
It's mediocre.
Just hanging out by like an on fire garbage can.
Yeah, they're basically one step up from homeless.
Yeah. Right, they don't have any cop sheen to them. They look raggedy.
Yeah, and also it's like their whole cop methodology is like they're hanging out and they're like, "Hey, isn't that Jimmy Smits?
Yeah.
Shit, let's go get him. Hey, look over there, Jimmy Smits."
Right.
They're just like they're waiting for something suspect to happen.
Right.
Right, and both of these guys are guys they sort of know by reputation.
Right.
Sure. Jimmy Smits is called Julio Gonzalez,
and
Joey Pants is Snake.
Yeah. So they take after them, but there's even kind of that moment where they're like, we should probably try to go after them, right?
Yeah.
Like they're like, fuck, we got to work, don't we? We're on the job.
Well, and you're basically following them on a very simple assignment. There's nothing big here. They stumble into something big, and they realize, like when I didn't watch it last night, but I've seen it so many times. Like when Snake is basically talking to Jimmy Smits, they're like, oh, that's it. Like, we got what's going on here? Like, that's what they're trying to figure out. Like, you know,
right? That's their entire probable cause.
Right.
Yes, we saw them talking to each other. But then they go to Snake's house, and he's got money, and they're like, "Well, this is bad, dirty money, isn't it?
Money in a suitcase." Yeah. But they don't want to be hero cops. Like, these guys don't want to be the star of a movie.
No.
They just want to, like, punch in, punch out, get their pension. They're just trying to, like, count out the clock, you know?
Yeah, they're like beat cops. In many ways, they're like beat cops at this point.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That's the thing. And, like, that's, I think, their only really valuable skill that Hedaya likes out of them, you know, when he's trying to get them to train their replacements, where he's like, well, you know the street, like, you know what to do in your neighborhood, like, just teach them all the spots in your neighborhood.
And I think the reason they get so involved in this case is just because if these characters have an Achilles heel, it's that they love low-level razzing.
Yes.
They do love to clown on each other.
Right. So they see Pantoliano and they're like, we can fucking clown on this guy till the sun goes down.
Yeah. Basically, like, you have $50,000, you shouldn't, so we're just going to get it out of you. Like, why you have this.
But then, like, a moment that is funny, like, works as a good gag for the audience, but also totally makes sense as a thing a cop would do, is when Crystal goes out in the balcony and rats out.
Hey, he's got $50,000 up here.
Keep an eye on him. Like, that's actually kind of a good cop move in order to intimidate him into working with them.
And I will say, too, it's like not, you know, we talked earlier about, like, the plot isn't super solid, but I think the plot is... It's simple. Like, it doesn't have, like, I think we're so used to now, it's like, it's a conspiracy and it goes to this level and this level. It's like, no, here's a guy who is, he's a kingpin in the city, but a drug kingpin, but is respectable, and they're just trying to bring him down. There's not much more to this movie than that, and the fact is, he's hard to bring down. Like, that's really, I mean, in many respects, like, what else do you need? You don't need much more than that. Yeah. You know, that's a good enough story. Most people don't bring down drug kingpins.
Right. It's like Jimmy Smits is a drug kingpin. He sells cocaine.
Right.
His new thing is he's also buying some Uzis.
Yes.
That's it. That's, you know, he went up one level. And when they follow the trail, they like get on this boat and he's buying some Uzis. That's it.
But it's also like with cop comedies, you want the crime or the case to be functional. Like, you want it to track, but no one's in it for the plot. You're in it to hang out with these characters.
Right.
So this movie just does like just enough of that without bogging us down. And I was so relieved at the end of it when it was like, ooh, thank God. Hedaya wasn't in on it. Stephen Bauer wasn't in on it. Like, I was dreading some scene where someone walks out of, like, a dark hallway and reveals that they were actually pulling the strings. So, you guys had to keep on sniffing my trail.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, it's the guy they think it is, but he's a good criminal, so it's hard to peg him.
And that to me is again why when you get to these things, like I love the going to Lethal Weapon, another simple thing. It's like, and Beverly Hills Cop. It's simple. It's like, all right, Beverly Hills Cop. It's an art dealer who's using his art buying to smuggle in drugs. Easy, got it, done.
Right.
And then and Lethal Weapon. It's basically like it's a little bit more complicated, but it's also just it all goes back to this Vietnam thing, which is also like super dark but it's like a little bit of a conspiracy, but not like it's not like the governor was in on it too.
It doesn't go all the way to City Hall. Right.
Yeah.
Right, and it's like we want to see how these characters deal with this situation. So it's better if you just put them in situations where there's a lot of shoe leather.
Right.
A
lot of shoe leather. This is a leathery movie.
This is a leathery movie.
And when they stumble upon this, when Snake gets busted and blows their cover, and they get in this like shootout, and it feels to me like they've never really been like in a shootout, like or in a way that was like really dangerous to them,
Right. I was about to bring that up. So that's right. Where Snake leads them to this bust on the boat, and it feels very scary, and not in a exaggerated way. It's just like, oh, these guys
are guys who have actively avoided this kind of situation.
This is not their thing. They can't shoot their way out of a boat with gangsters with the Uzis and stuff.
Right. Let's bust the guy on the corner. Let's not take down the kingpin.
Yeah, exactly. And I feel like, and that moment freaks them out. They lose their lead, and then the movie basically is like, all right, this is like, and I guess where would you guys say? I mean, that's the end of the first. Is the end of the first act them going on vacation? I mean, in the beginning of the second act. I mean, I mean, So that's the end of the first act. Is like they're stressed. They got sloppy. Get out of town because they actually just brought some attention to something that they didn't need. Like, you need to go. Like, you need to get out of here right now. And they go on vacation. They go on vacation. They do the end of the movie first,
I couldn't believe it when this happened. I legit thought that would be the end of,
It's such a good gag because
it is.
We've seen these guys drinking a lot at shithole bars, right?
Sure. Yes, a lot of great shithole bars in this movie.
Unbelievable Chicago shithole bars. And this whole city feels so cold, so gross, so mean, and these bars feel like a distillation of that, where they're not even fighting it and they slide behind the bar and pour themselves drinks.
They both have ex-wives who will come by just to be like, hey, just FYI, I still don't like you. I'll see you later.
Right. And by the way, I love his ex-wife in this. His ex-wife in this is
me too.
Perfectly cast, and also she's not she you can tell she likes him. There's there's an energy there. When they come back from vacation, he's like, I gotta go to my wife's mother's funeral.
Aunt Rose. I forgot
Aunt Rose.
That's the other big first act.
They drag
thing.
Snake to the funeral.
They're late to the funeral. It's one of the 6 things he was supposed to do that day is drop in on this funeral. Yeah.
And they bring Dan to day. One of my favorite lines of that movie is hey PB, there's a UFO on whatever avenue in Chicago, and they punch him in the face. I love that moment too. UFO landed.
But he's got this ex-wife who's kind of just clearly fell for his charms, realized it was not a sustainable relationship, and now has put up a wall and is trying not to fall for it again.
When I see Crystal in this movie, I say he's hot. I do mean he's the kind of guy you could divorce.
100%.
Yeah,
kind of guy you could be like, let's cut our losses here.
And you can just imagine a few too many nights where he forgets to go to dinner because the Cubs are playing.
Right. He's not she didn't divorce him because he loves the job. That's what I think you got out of it. It wasn't you work too hard, you get too deep. I just think it's oh yeah, you're just kind of a shit husband. Yeah, I love you, but this is not working for me. You're not paying enough attention to me.
He was probably as good at being a husband as he is as being a cop, which is to say, okay.
Yeah. he just kind of talks his way through it.
Very frustrating to people who ask him to be responsible and show up.
And meanwhile, and then Gregory Hines is a little bit more of a ladies' man. When they go out and meet those ladies. I love that his move at the end of the movie when he has to kind of get him to help him out. Billy Crystal gets Gregory Hines. Gregory Hines likes to have sex while putting on the police blinker of his cop motorcycle,
which is in his warehouse, loft.
In his warehouse loft, which is great. Great. Like, I mean, and then that's like the most ridiculous thing, really. I guess you know, like it's like, all right, yeah, he lives. His cop motorcycle is in his house, and he's like having sex while the police light is flashing.
And also, Crystal and Hines are so comfortable with each other.
I was about to say.
Crystal just apparently has keys to his place and shows up in the morning, whether or not he's post-coitus.
Constantly walking in on each other having sex.
Yeah.
Like, it happens multiple times.
And it's not like that big of a deal, and they seem, and the women seem charmed
And the
by it.
girl doesn't care either. Right.
Yeah.
These are definitely two guys who have Fargo'd before, right?
Fargo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They've definitely had parallel sex, it feels like, because they're very
sure.
comfortable with each
on
other.
that vacation, there's probably a few scenes that we did not see in that vacation montage. I mean, those girls on the Marlin boat. You know, we don't know what happened there.
Yeah.
So that's my favorite gag in the movie is Hideo goes like, you know, badges on my table, take a fucking vacation.
Right.
They don't want to do it.
They go to Key West.
Well, no, but we hard cut to another dingy, dark
Them in a
bar,
shitty bar,
and they're
which is really
complaining about,
funny.
can you believe it? He wants us to go on vacation, and you think it's right after The Office, them complaining in Chicago, and then they step outside, and they're in the most beautiful place in America.
Right. And then the sunset bit is really funny.
So good.
Where they're like, what are you looking at that for? And she's like, it's beautiful. And he's like, wait a minute, it does it every day. Like they've never even thought to look at the sunset.
These guys have just not considered the idea that they could enjoy their lives.
There's like beauty in the world.
Right. And then suddenly they bite in. You know?
Yeah.
They start living what looks like the best life of all time.
They like enter the Miami Vice credits. Like they suddenly live within the opening credits of Miami Vice.
They bite into some McDonald's.
Yes.
They are, and they're living a life, and you get like, and they come back with this energy after that montage where they learn how to, they learn, like, where their first moment is like, what are people standing out looking at? And they're like, oh, the sunset. And then at the end of the montage, they've seen the sunset, and they come back the way that everyone comes back from vacation, going like, I should just live there. Should I just live there? And then they do like sign a lease for a bar, right? I mean, that's part of it too. Yeah.
Also, they have $40,000.
Right.
Like,
He inherited from Aunt Rose.
Right.
But they're sort of working out the math of their pension and everything.
Right.
And they're like, why wouldn't we just do this?
Yeah, so they're both about 40 when they make this movie. I checked their ages, both actors. Yeah. And so, like, you know, they're like, cops can retire in their mid-40s.
Yeah.
You know? Like, they're both sort of around the time
they
where it's
could
like,
do
all right,
it.
let's punch out.
They may be 5 years earlier than they planned on it. But the thing I like is that most cop movies, it's like, this cop's Achilles heel is he's addicted to the rush of being a cop. He needs to be on the force. Otherwise, he can't get his juice. And this, it's like for the first time they step away from it and they just go like, actually, you know what? I'm totally happy not being a cop. I'm fine with this.
Yeah.
As long as they have each other.
Right. So then the movie just becomes like, okay, can we just like, let's just get to the finish line here.
Yeah.
They go back in, they go to Hideo, they're like, look, we signed the lease. We love Key West. You were right. We did need a vacation.
And he's like, what do you mean? You're going to open a bar? You're fucking idiots. Like, you know, but it is, you know, it works. You know, like they're fine. And then they get then they're scared. I mean, maybe this is where where the title is. I mean, you know, they are like, you know, Billy Crystal's like, I got to wear a bulletproof vest from now. Well, I mean, there's a whole incident with, what is it? Where a gun goes off in the changing room, the cop changing room.
That's weird.
Right. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And Billy Crystal's like,
also-
Right, yeah. Smits is out on bail, so they got to worry about that.
A lot of other cops have been dying too.
Right. Yes. Yeah. Because like they're on this case where a cop got like drowned in cement.
Right.
Yeah.
oh, right.
Forgot about that.
Again, you don't see all this violence; you just hear about it.
Yeah, it's almost crazy that this movie's rated R. No,
Yeah.
there's not a lot of bad language.
No.
The sex you mentioned, like that your dad edited out, is minor. Very,
Yes.
very chaste, honestly.
Yeah.
And
very.
like even the violence is I mean, some people get shot, I guess, but like nothing crazy.
Most of the bad guys just like back out of like shooting a cop, and they're just like, all right, I give up.
Yeah.
Like, that's like a lot of this movie.
If I had to guess why it got an R rating, I would say it was probably the 20-minute close-up shot of Billy Crystal's penis.
Oh yeah, well that was
right,
because it was erect, right?
Right.
Yes, right. Which you can't sneak that by them. They'll see that.
I should mention also, I watched this movie on an edit that my dad put together. He edits every movie before I watch it and puts more graphic content.
What did the penis look familiar? I mean, I don't mean to be crass, but did it look familiar? I mean,
It looked like my dad's penis.
Yeah,
If
okay,
that's what
yeah.
Is that what you're getting at? Yeah. But I assumed. I just thought. I guess Bill Crystal and my dad come from similar stock. You know,
Yeah, of
There's
course,
two
yeah,
New
of
York
course.
Jews. Yeah. It is a kind of incredible that they cast Billy Crystal to play an Italian in this movie, and not even passively, but they talk about his Italian heritage a lot.
Yeah.
Because this is the New Yorkiest he has ever been. I feel like he's amping up his accent in this. He's in like full Mike Wazowski mode in this.
I do, but yeah, I agree with you. Like, I feel like those are the things that I don't ever realize. Yeah, I was watching After Trek, the Star Trek Discovery after show.
The Matt
and,
Myra show, yeah.
And Jonathan Frakes was on there, and they were talking about something, and he goes, "You guys you realize that Patrick Stewart is supposed to be French." Like, like it's funny, you don't question these things. Like, Jean-Luc Picard, and he is so British, but you don't question it. You're like, yeah, sure. He's they write episodes where he's going to like his winery. Like in France.
He goes back to his like family vineyard.
Right.
And like everyone else is like, oh, Jean-Luc, why do you're always in space? You never hang out at the winery,
But like, Jewish New Yorker is to Billy Crystal what like angry Bostonian is to Mark Wahlberg. It's like a thing you cannot beat out of their personality.
Right, yeah.
And this movie asks you to accept that not only is he Italian rather than Jewish, but he's hardcore Chicago boy.
By the way, I got to tell you, until you've brought all of these very valid points up, never crossed my mind.
Never thought of it.
Never did it feel weird. Never did I think anything. Like, now you're saying it. Everything you say is 100% correct.
Sure.
But never had I ever had that thought.
I was staying late at the old detective office
What's happening?
one night, downing glass after glass of whiskey when
Who's he talking to?
a new sponsor strolled up into my office.
Oh.
Yeah, this was a real quality sponsor, all right.
You're talking about Cereal Box?
Yeah. A sponsor that National Public Radio would call the HBO of reading.
Oh, you mean the one where it's like an entertainment studio that reimagines how film and TV and digital projects are developed, produced, and distributed?
Yeah. I thought her legs didn't quit. But what really didn't quit was the amount of gripping stories written by best-selling and award-winning teams of writers, similar to a TV show's writer room.
And they release episodes every week that you can listen to.
Yeah.
I'm sorry that I don't know who I'm talking to here.
This woman will be the death of me, I tell you.
Then you should.
This sponsor will be the death of me.
Even though you can listen to serials at no extra cost and then read them if you're listening to them and then you need to switch to reading, like with one click.
Yeah.
That's going to be the death of you?
Yeah.
That sounds like fun to me.
It was a mystery. It'd take years for me to untangle.
But, well, let me tell you about False Idols. Did you hear about False Idols? Maybe this will untangle the mystery for you a little bit.
And just like that, a lead lands on my desk.
It's about an FBI linguist who's a deep undercover agent in the Middle East who has to infiltrate the highest echelons of society. It's like a fun, gripping, thriller.
A fun, gripping thriller.
Yeah.
But that's what I'm looking for.
Well, it's going to be also released as a print book in early April, and you can pre-order it now wherever books are sold. But if you want to listen or read this series...
But how could I get a discount, I thought to myself.
Let me
Another dead end in this mystery.
You go to serialbox.com/blank check. That's SERIALBOX.com/blank check. Or you go to the redeem page and you enter the code CHECK18.
So all I have to do is check 18 times that I have left the box blank.
No, if you go to the redeem page and use the code CHECK18, you'll get a 20% discount on the first season of False Idols today.
Looks like another case closed.
Great.
By the Sweaty Bit Detective Agency.
So they come back from the vacation. They're
Smits is out on bail.
They're on edge.
Yeah. They are. There's a little more of a... I do like the first half of the movie more than the second half.
Sure.
I guess. I like it all.
Yeah.
It's a wonderful movie, by the way.
I was going to say, when this movie was brought up, what was your... you're coming into it, had you seen it? Had you heard about it? And then what were your reactions to it? Just out of curiosity.
Great question.
To me, I'd only heard of this movie as a movie you'd mentioned in the same sentence as Collision Course, the Jay Leno, Pat Morita movie, where it was in the 80s, there were so many buddy cop movies with so many weird
pairing.
people in
right,
it.
Right.
Okay.
And you load it up and it's got that sort of like real basic white font for the titles. And
Yeah.
you're like, ooh, I don't know. And then just the first scene, I was so charmed by how like lo-fi everything was, and how not over the top Heinz and Crystal were, and how like natural their chemistry was. And I mean, it is one of those things where I'm almost more forgiving a movie like this now because you never see movies like this anymore.
Yeah.
Right, like David and I saw The
But
Commuter.
I really liked it.
Together
The Commuter
recently,
is great. Have
which
you
is
seen The
great.
Commuter yet?
No, I hear it. I've only heard what you just said, like that idea that it's really, really great.
Yeah,
It's
I
so
mean, it's
good.
an American masterpiece.
Right, one of the better movies.
Ever made.
Right.
But we walked out of it and we were like, Commuter is such, like, movies like this are such an important part of the film ecosystem.
Sure.
And like Liam Neeson is single-handedly the only kind of person who's supplying us with that kind of like bare knuckle sort of man under pressure thriller.
Mid-budget thriller, yeah.
Right. And I feel like we're similarly lacking in this type of movie right now. So I felt like frustrated, weirdly, watching Running Scared that we don't have modern Running Scareds.
Well,
Comedies that aren't overtly silly, that have like real world stakes, that are personality based, and are this kind of like casual and comfortable.
Well, I got to tell you guys, I actively tried to buy the rights to this movie.
Whoa!
Yeah, I took a meeting to try to make this movie. I was like, oh, every now and then you get an idea, and I'm like, I would love.
Yeah.
I think this movie is really good, and I think it's something that's kind of lacking in the space, and it has like enough of a high concept idea to it, like these guys that want to get out of it, and I tried to chase it down, and it just kind of. I think it was like a rights issue or something, but it was.
Who owns this movie?
Yeah, because I met with. Oh, that's what it was. I met with MGM, who produced it, but MGM doesn't own it, the rights to it. But I did a little digging on it because I just like, oh, it's such a good. I could see this movie being made in this era and still working on some level. Like you just take the same kind of, friends at the beginning, simple plot. You keep it real. It has like, it's. I wonder. I think there's a room where this works. I think.
So if they had given you the keys to the kingdom, if you had gained control of the massive Running Scared franchise and all of its tendrils, its multimedia opportunities, right?
Yeah.
Were you planning on being one of the two?
Yeah, that's in my mind. I was like, look, I could probably pull this off on some level. But they might, in the dream of dreams, like I was like, oh, that would be so cool, and you can make it really. In my mind, I was like, here's a movie you can make cheaply, but it could be cool, and it could feel like just something that felt a little bit new.
Did you have a blue sky notion of who you would have wanted your partner
your
to
dream
be?
buddy? Yeah.
No, I didn't. I should have probably thought about that. Let's say Gerard Carmichael.
Sure. Well, I don't know if you know this, but they announced the Safdie brothers, who did Good Time and Heaven Knows What, are going to do a 48 Hours remake with Gerard Carmichael, and that gets me really excited.
Oh, wait a second. I did not know that they're doing it with Gerard. That's amazing. Oh, wow.
Yes. And he's going to write it with them, and that, like, the thing I love about this era of buddy cop movies is that most of the directors were not comedy directors.
Yeah. Sure.
Like, you have guys like Hyams
Donner.
or Walter Hill or Richard Donner. So it's like, get funny actors, but have a director who knows how to make a real cop movie.
Yeah.
And the Safdie brothers have that kind of tactile, edgy,
street level
gritty
energy.
quality.
Yeah, I love. Yeah, that's great.
Which is really encouraging. And I wonder if, like, the only way to get these movies back into the ecosystem is to have them be remakes of the titles that are well known. But these concepts are so general and they're so personality based that, like, if you have to use the basic setup of 48 Hours as a jumping off point, that's fine, as long as we can get these back into the bloodstream.
Yeah, 100%.
See, I feel like I would love to see you and Mantzoukas do a buddy cop movie together that could play on just your level of comfort. You know?
Oh, yeah, I would love it.
Like, you guys know each other's moves.
100%. It's like one of the best things that I loved about the League was like doing scenes with like Kroll and Zooks and even Hubel when he was on, because it's so fun to improvise so freely with the people that you've been doing this with like all the time. Yeah.
Right, and that's you watch movies like this, and it's like these guys aren't jockeying to be the breakout star of this film. They just want to like work well together. They're two guys who like each other. They're just trying to make some nice chemistry.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing that's missing. And I feel like the closest thing I can kind of call to that is I think Seth Rogen does a great job of capturing that energy like that you miss out on. Like even I did this TV show Future Man with like Aquafina, who's really very funny, and we got to like play around. Like I think they are really good at letting chemistry and finding things and playing with each other happen, but doing it in a way where you're actually getting a lot of. I was watching again another 20-minute movie. This is the end, and I was like, oh yeah, this is like everyone's playing in this way that's really fun and it's really good.
Well, look, on the subject of good friends who have great chemistry, who should be in a movie together, I pitched it before, I'll pitch it again. Griffin Newman, Gal Gadot, Midnight Run, directed by Paul Thomas Anderson.
By the way, I love
There's my pitch.
I love that. Yeah, I mean, I feel like that's like such a no-brainer, and I think you're going to have to fight with the Wonder Woman schedule. I mean, that's it seems like
that's the only holdup. Now we haven't met, we don't know each other, but we're both Jews and we play superheroes, so we're the exact same person. I'm sure we'd hit it off famously.
I mean, yeah. First of all, she's so down to earth. She's really fun.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I see a lot of myself in her. When I see her on screen, I go like, that's the kind of move I would make,
Somebody said something on Twitter. It's really nasty, but I as someone who enjoyed Wonder Woman and enjoys her whole energy, but it was funny like that the choice that they made in that movie was that everyone speaks like her, not that she changed her voice.
Right. Yes.
Love
yeah.
it.
Right. You're right. She's the touchstown for all of Amazonia.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Right.
Yeah.
Like everyone. Yeah. And I just think that like I did again, and a thing I did not ever think of. I was like, oh yeah, she like, but it's a strong move to be like, no. Everyone talk like her.
Everyone has an Israeli accent. Yes.
Yeah.
But also, why shouldn't they do that? Like, she's Wonder Woman. The entire movie should be
She's
reverse
Wonder Woman.
engineered from
You're right.
whoever's Wonder Woman.
And she's good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we're going to be great together, and that movie's getting greenlit.
Should we talk about the last act of running scared?
Well, I mean, the last, so basically they're nervous, they're running scared, and they're getting close, and so when they get a little bit too close for comfort, Jimmy Smits kidnaps Billy Crystal's ex-wife, and now
Right.
he's got to
Very
get
rude.
involved. Now he's got to, this he can't sit this one out.
And we haven't said Crystal's ex-wife is now engaged to a dentist. Which
they keep ragging
He's
on her.
dunking on this dentist so
Yeah.
hard. This hypothetical dentist. Oh, that's another big running bit I like is that when anyone in the movie comes looking for one of the two of them,
Right.
they
Yeah.
pass it off to the other one
They
to pretend.
yeah.
There's that great speech where Gregory Hines has to sell himself as being
like,
Crystal.
Paisano, what are you
Right,
talking
opera,
about?
yeah, tomato sauce.
Well, like, and then like also like, I mean, yeah, like it's like the guy. I always think about the guy from Ghostbusters that Sigourney Weaver is dating, who's like shooting Afrin into his nose as like Venkman's talking to him. He's like, oh, who's that guy? Like, it's like, oh. I love the shitty boyfriend. The role that I would probably be playing in one of these movies, like,
But the wife, he goes to see her, and he kind of
they have
finally
a fight,
like
right? They have a little fight, and she leaves
right
and gets
where
kidnapped.
he gets her to admit how much she still has feelings for him, even though
Right.
she's fighting that because she knows that's a dumb decision.
You're
right.
Objectively,
Which is a smart person.
objectively.
But he's got that flame reignited a little bit. He gets so angry he breaks one of his 15 framed Chicago Cubs photos.
He wears a lot of Cubs memorabilia. He
Yeah.
wears a Blackhawks shirt at one point.
This is one of the best scarf movies I've ever seen.
great
Too.
By the way,
It's
confident
so
scarf
cold.
wearing.
Yeah.
Confident scarf wearing is an art that this movie really, really showed us how you can do it.
Because
Do you think
it's
they
a tough
shot-
line to walk without coming off as pretentious. You know?
yes.
Right, yes. But do you think they shot the Key West stuff at the end of the shooting schedule? Like, do you think they like rewarded themselves with that? Because
Ooh,
it
yeah,
looks
they-
like a miserable shoot in
Yes.
Chicago.
I
Yeah.
wonder.
I wonder if they either started with that to get the buddy nature together.
Sure, the hang.
You know?
Yeah.
Because that's actually a great way to kind of get your crew. I remember I was shooting a movie in New Orleans, and they were shooting This Is the End, second time I've referenced that movie. And they had, before their movie started, they had a rap party at the beginning of the movie. And I thought, oh, that's so smart.
Such a smart idea.
Yeah.
Have everyone like hang out and
Because the first couple
feel
days
loose.
of filming anything feel like everyone's at a new school.
Yes.
It's
100%.
always very odd and uncomfortable. And you're being thrown into the deep end trying to do very collaborative work. And everyone's like a little like, oh, maybe the sound department has worked with each other before, but they don't know the camera department.
No, you
It's
wanna-
like everyone should have some dumb bar night before they start working on a movie.
Yeah, I feel like you need to get. I mean, you want to get comfortable. You want to, like, because you're always like, oh, I wish the last day was our first day, because you know,
Right.
you just know everybody's movements, and that's why I'm a big fan of, and not that I've ever really had a chance to do it, but to have rehearsal. You know, like if you could get like a week of rehearsal and just run through scenes, it's such a great thing.
It's a luxury that feels like it has been fully squeezed out of the industry.
Yeah, which makes no sense whatsoever.
I want to talk about the car chase
Okay.
because the car chase in this movie is wonderful.
Genuinely really
One of the
thrilling.
Great
Yeah.
car chases of the 80s, in my opinion.
What a good hook.
Has to
Yeah.
be up there.
Yeah.
We were talking about car chases at the beginning
Right.
of this episode, but still, like the bit of doing it on the L is
So
great.
good.
Yes.
And literally the third rail as the tension.
Yes, literally.
Yeah.
Literally.
And
And then there's the thing with the nun. I'm trying to think of like what other things we need to hit, because there's the thing
I mean,
with the
you
nun
know,
and
I
the
mean, we
priest.
talked about the big finale, which is like the
Yeah.
the biggest set piece that you're going to get, which is in some sort of famous building in Chicago, all glass
the
building.
James Thompson Center.
and it's an amazing location. They shoot it so well.
It is quite a crazy thing.
The floor of this place is incredible looking, and they keep on doing these like crazy high up bird's eye views.
It's a well shot action sequence, which I think one of the best parts of it is how it is the elevators, the glass elevators, and you're
Yes.
seeing everything is exposed, and you're seeing everything, and yeah, there's machine gun fire, but also like sloppy Uzi firing, like which is really fun. To like again, this movie is not the glossy bad boys. You know, it's like I think why I picked this movie and what I like talking about this movie is very much like Die Hard. Everything has birthed out of these things, and we've gotten so far away from the genesis of why we like these things and why these things were good that you forget that if you go backwards, they were the core of these things are great. Like, you know, like Die Hard, wherever it is now in whatever incarnation, they're terrible films, in my opinion. Like, and you know, because it like I remember listening to like Bruce Willis talk about John McClane. He's like, you know, what people tune into for Die Hard is the New Jersey sense of humor. And I was like, well, you're totally wrong. That's not people aren't tuning in for the New Jersey sense of humor of John McClane, which I didn't even realize was from New Jersey. But like, I feel like you get so far, and I think this movie is like, if you just went back to this, sometimes it really works. Just simple, fun, effective, good partnership, good pairing, some cool set pieces.
nothing crazy.
Yeah.
Nothing crazy.
The guys never become badasses. The most heroic thing Crystal does is convince his wife to jump to him.
Right.
Yes.
Jump over a little gap. Yes.
Right, and it's like that makes sense. He loves her. He's really invested. But
Right.
there's never a moment like, you know, by Die Hard 4, Bruce Willis is using entire cars as bullets.
Yeah, right.
Yes.
You know? Like, he literally has that gag, and he's, like, hanging off the side of, like, a fucking, like, Blackbird jet and shit. And his raglan is always, like, perfectly distressed.
It's like, again, I think when you see things that are things that you could do or situations that you might be put in, it's way more effective. Like, you know, I zone out a lot of the times, and I'm like, all right, but if someone said like jump to an elevator, I can picture what that feels like. I can picture being there. You know, those are the things that you feel. Like, I don't know what it's like to, you know, drive a fucking tank on the highway in Fast and Furious and, you know, jump from one lane to the next. But I know I've been in those elevators. I've had those thoughts like, I could probably do that. I could, like, I think almost
Could
if
do
you
it,
can
scary.
do it. Yeah.
Yeah, the stakes always feel very palpable in this movie, and maybe my favorite gag in the entire film is when they're sort of like breathing their sigh of relief, and then they hear Jimmy Smits yelling out, and they realize that neither of them have gotten him. They both thought that the other
anytime
one.
they shoot, they always have an argument over who hit the guy, like who fired the good shot. Yeah.
Right.
They're a bunch of cuties.
Yeah.
All right, but I know you got to go, Paul, but we got to play the box office game before we're done.
Yes,
So we always
100%,
end by
that's
trying to
true.
guess the box office of the weekend the movie came out.
Okay,
Yes.
got it.
And this movie came out June 27th, 1986.
Dead of the
summer
summer.
movie.
I mean, this is
Yeah, but late summer, late June.
Sure.
Yeah, late June.
Yeah,
All right, so
okay.
midsummer. You're
Yeah,
right.
but yeah,
yeah.
it's not, we're not talking about an August movie. Like this is
No.
yeah.
No, it's
Yeah,
in there.
It's June. It's June. It's July. 4th of July weekend is right there. That's a big box office weekend coming up.
this movie's going to
You're
play.
right.
Yeah.
You're right. It opened number 5. Was not like a
Oh wow!
barnstormer out of the gate. It opened to $5 million. It ends up grossing like 40,
Yeah.
which is like pretty good. You know,
And there's something really interesting about a movie like this. I want to hear what you guys are saying too. It's like, so if it grosses 40, like,
Yeah.
how much
It was
is
like
it made
the-
for? Do we know how much it's made for?
what the budget was?
15
That
would be my
sounds
guess.
Right. That
Yeah.
sounds right.
All right. So
I know
fif-
they said that they were encouraged enough about it that everyone wanted to do another Heinz Crystal movie.
That's what I always was under the impression that there was always going to be a sequel, and I heard them talk about it a few times, and
Right.
it felt like, yeah, let's see, like, why not that one? Because again,
Or even if not a direct sequel, like what's their stir crazy? What's their
Yes.
see no evil, hear no evil? You
Right.
know?
Yeah.
And they said they just never found the script. I mean, these two guys liked each
Clearly
other.
get
a lot.
along.
Yeah.
There's no question that chemistry is good.
Yeah.
So number 1 is a hot sequel to a hot movie from a couple years back. I think it's the highest grossing in this franchise.
In
There
this
are
franchise.
others after it.
What year is it again?
1986. It's a sports movie.
Oh, it's Karate Kid Part 2?
Karate Kid Part 2.
oh wow,
Okay. I think that is the highest grossing one,
Yeah,
right?
it made a ton of money.
Yeah.
It made 115, which like adjusted is like some crazy amount of money.
That's really
And
interesting.
it made more than the first one, which is nuts to me because I think of the first one as like a completely ubiquitous movie,
Right.
but it did better.
Yeah.
What happens in the Karate Kid Part 2?
I don't remember. Isn't that the one where it takes place, like it starts 5 seconds after the first one ended,
Yes,
but Ralph
yes,
Macchio is clearly
that's the
4
one where
years older?
he goes to
Sure.
Okinawa, and
Right.
they had the drum where it goes back and that little thing that goes back and forth. Yeah.
All right, number 2 is a comedy. I mean, the kind of thing I think our producer, he's nodding, he's happy.
I love this movie.
Starring a big comic personality of the 80s.
Personality feels like a deliberate
Sure.
word choice.
You know, he's a guy who kind of plays himself in every movie.
Okay. Is he a Ben favorite?
I mean,
I don't know if
I don't know.
I've referenced him before, but
And this is very much like a vehicle.
yeah, totally.
Yeah.
He's
Is there
how do I
like
describe this? It was
86.
written.
86 is this is where I'm like terrible at the Doug Benson movie game because I
Sure.
don't even know what the 86 is at this point. I'm thinking Dana Carvey. I'm like, oh, that's way too early for Dana Carvey. So
Right.
I'm like,
Ben's got a clue.
Ben's got a clue?
he's always worried. The actor, lead actor, is always worried about his honor
Oh boy.
being
Oh,
put
boy.
into question.
Oh.
This was the 6th highest grossing movie of this year.
Is it Back to School?
Yes.
Rodney Dangerfield.
with Rodney
He
Dangerfield.
gets no respect.
This movie grossed more than Aliens.
Was huge.
It was
wow.
huge.
Giant movie.
Huge. A huge film. A
Giant movie.
Yeah.
Hey, you know what, guys? I'm realizing. Okay, well, I want to hear
No.
I have an interesting
go,
fact.
what do you
about,
real-
I have an interesting fact about Running Scared. I'm looking a little bit online right now. I
Sure.
think Running Scared was re-released in November because it came out July 27th on 600 screens, right? And then on November 2nd, it was released on 864 screens and made one of the first of all, the biggest weekend it had was in August. So this movie had some life to it. Like it went it's interesting to see. Like I'm just tracking where it went, but it looks like mid-November or early November. They're like, get it back in the theaters.
It was like
Imagine them
the
doing that now.
I know it was My Big Fat Greek Wedding of its day.
Yeah.
because it's not like a movie that makes a ton when it debuts.
No,
Yeah.
it just stays
it
in there, I guess.
builds. Yeah.
Yeah, it builds. Number 3 is a movie. The title rhymes.
That all rhymes.
Oh man.
You know, it's a comedy. It stars a real big movie star and then 2 ladies, 2 sort of hot ladies of the 80s.
Oh, Legal Eagles. Legal Eagles. Is that right?
Legal Eagles.
Oh.
You got it. Title rhymes.
A Reitman picture.
It's an Ivan Reitman movie from
wow,
Cash
I
and
never
Epps.
saw that.
Who, and that's
I have-
Deborah Winger.
Deborah Winger and Daryl Hannah.
You know what? The only reason why that movie was on my brain is that I made a very bad Twitter joke yesterday. That I had a thought so quickly. I wrote it and I was like, "Oh, this is not even conceptually put together right." But I wanted, my original Twitter joke was this: I wanted to be like, breaking news: 3 new lawyers join the Robert Mueller's team, and I wanted to post just a picture of Legal Eagles because for whatever reason that popped into my head, and then
It's a hilarious poster.
it's a hilarious that I don't know why it popped in my head. It's like one of those things that just kind of came to me, and then I was like, oh, maybe it should just be Roman J. Israel, but I'm like, that no one even knows what that is, and then I didn't even really sell the joke in any way, but I just like. But I don't know why. Literally yesterday, Legal Eagles came into my head for no reason.
It's a great title.
It's that poster where like Redford's just leaning on the desk
Oh,
with just so much delight.
Legal Eagles and From the Hip are 2 amazing lawyer
From the hip.
From the hip.
That's the Judd Nelson one, right?
Yes.
I always get that one confused. Doesn't he have like a bone in his
He
mouth?
has like a dog toy.
Yeah,
in his
Jesus
mouth.
Oh,
Christ.
does he? Oh boy.
Robin's Stormy Weathers. The way he practices law should be a crime.
By the way, I've never seen the bone in the mouth one. I've only seen the one where he's standing with his hand up, and it says the way he practices law should be a crime. Oh yeah, so that's the same thing. But
which is a great tagline.
I never saw the bone in the mouth.
You got the classier
Well,
one.
Yeah.
for the 4th and final movie, because Running Scared is 5th, I'll just describe the poster to you.
Okay.
It's just a big screw.
Ruthless People?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ruthless People. Another like huge
One of the
hit.
highest grossing films of that year.
Yeah. Which I have never seen. I have weirdly seen Other People's Money, which was sort of like
Sure.
Yeah.
like where they were like, can we just do that again? Like DeVito is like this
Right.
rich shithead. Like
I
but,
never saw
Ruthless
it, and I
good,
had the
right?
movie soundtrack to it though.
So
I
you're a
just-
real '80s movie soundtrack guy.
Oh, I mean, I had everything on tape. Every '80s movie on tape. Oh man,
It's amazing.
yeah.
I mean, it's a pretty good cast. DeVito, Judge Reinhold, Helen Slater, Bette Midler.
And isn't it Zucker Abraham Zucker?
Yep.
Zucker Abraham Zucker?
Yep.
Yeah.
Zaz.
And God, Bette Midler ran the table on the 80s. She had a run that was fucking insane.
Sure. Yeah. Some other movies in Top Gun. Is in the
Still
top
in
10.
there? Yeah.
Ferris Bueller is in the top 10. Most interestingly, though, to me, Labyrinth also debuts this week at number 8. That movie was a bomb.
That was a big bomb.
Yeah, because that movie only made like $10 million.
But this is a time in where, and again, I love these movies. It doesn't happen like this anymore. Where word of mouth would elevate films. Like they didn't have to come out and be number 1. Like Summer Rental could
Right.
be in the theater for a handful of weeks, and then like maybe a couple of weeks later, I remember I saw. I mean, I'm dating myself, but I remember seeing Star Trek: Undiscovered Country and Last Crusade together as a double feature a couple months after they were both out independent. Like it's just sort of like things are loosey at the movie theater. It was sort of like, yeah, these are 2 movies you liked from Paramount. We'll double package them again. Go see them.
I
Right.
missed that.
The
Yeah.
old bargain run theaters where they were like, hey, yeah, did you miss it? Well, you can see it
Yeah.
for half the price now or whatever.
But
yeah.
it came up in a box office game sometime in the past. The last time I think a studio really did a big version of that was like September of 2002. Sony re-released Men in Black 2 and the first Spider-Man as
Yeah,
a
we
double
talked
feature.
about this, yeah.
And it like did well. Like it has its own box office mojo entry, and I think it did like 20 million or something.
I like that. I like going to see a little bit of a double feature in a traditional setting. Like I think that's a fun thing to do.
They should re-release Running Scared and Running Scared as a double feature.
Yeah, I could watch this movie again. This must have been like a VHS king, though, this movie.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
This must have just been a video rental.
Well, it's sort of like the way that
mainstay.
Lethal Weapon was, a
Yeah.
movie that became a hit on HBO. Like it
Yes.
pretty much was not a great film box office. I think it's very low, but the second one's like a huge.
The first one is far and away the lowest grossing of the 4.
Yeah. Lethal
Yeah.
Weapon. See, and again, going back to my point that these movies came. I'm just looking. So Lethal Weapon came out the following year. So
Yeah,
I'm just,
87.
and then
Yeah.
and Beverly Hills Cop. Let's see when that came out. Oh, that came out 2 years before. So yeah, so it's right in the center.
Yeah, Beverly Hills, but Lethal Weapon, I think, is feeding off this energy a little bit.
Oh,
Definitely.
absolutely, yeah.
It's
they
more
definitely
grizzled.
went. Yeah.
Yeah.
I have a feeling that this movie, they added probably more comedy into Lethal Weapon because of that.
Right.
I bet.
Yeah.
Let's loosen it up a little bit.
Yeah.
Now, I have one more thing before we let you go. Gary DeVore, who wrote this movie, do you know about this guy?
No, I don't know much about Gary DeVore.
Okay, I mean, he wrote. He was like a guy. He wrote Raw Deal. He wrote Passenger 57. Like,
Oh, wow.
he was like a guy. He mysteriously died in 1997. He crashed his car beneath the California aqueduct, and he did not have his hands when they recovered the body.
Oh.
They had been cut off, and there is like a crazy, deep conspiracy theory about like that he'd written some script about like the U.S. invasion of Panama that like revealed the truth. And if you Google him, because I just sort of idly Googled him, it's like all this shit about how like how the U.S. government murdered Gary DeVore and cut his hands off for some reason.
Oof.
And I just we have to shout him out.
Okay, so I got a pitch.
Yeah,
right here off the dome.
Mm-hmm.
Period piece. 90s buddy cop movie set in Hollywood.
Okay.
2 cops get assigned to the Gary DeVore case. Paul Scheer, Griffin Newman, David Sims is the sergeant.
The desk sergeant.
I'm
I can be
so
like that
in.
guy who smells of cabbage. And he's like, okay, you could take your evidence. Yeah, that guy.
2 cops who joined the force because of running scared.
Right.
I love
That
it.
was their touchstone movie.
And they do
it.
investigate the death of the running scared writer.
Let's do it. So that's committed. We're adding it to the blank slate.
I love
blank
it.
check picture slate.
Hey, by the way, one thing I'll just say as we're talking about these movies, one movie to maybe check out and revisit. I haven't done it in a long time, but The Hard Way, a great Michael J. Fox, James Woods buddy cop movie about Michael J. Fox being an actor who kind of follows James Woods, and LL Cool J is a cop in it. I remember it being really fun, but Michael J. Fox is like a big movie star. I remember it being good.
I love James Woods. I love James Woods.
Classic dude.
I love that like mannequin. And that's
Like
a John
his
Badham
politics,
movie. That's like
think his acting is pretty good.
Sure, his politics are
Love his politics, like his work.
Yeah. I mean,
right. When you're ranking it, you're like number 1 politics. That's what I go to Woods for.
No. Number 1 Twitter personality. Number 2 politician. I worked with a Teamster on a shoot recently.
Okay.
Who, like, on the van ride back was talking about The Hard Way. And he just wouldn't stop selling how big a movie that was.
Oh, my God.
Not in like a negative way, but he was like, you have no idea how big this shoot was. We had all the Times Square
But
blocked
by the
out.
way,
Michael J. Fox, he was a supernova. And it's like, yeah, it was. Yeah.
I have a feeling that he's not wrong, because I remember one moment from it. Michael J. Fox is hanging from a billboard in Times Square, not on a set, big. Like I always think of Vanilla Sky as being like one of those big movies in Times Square, because it's like, shut down Times Square, or you at least got there at 5 a.m. But it's like there's those moments where you see the city and you're like, oh, how did they do that? Like that was a lot of money.
Yeah, it's post Back to the Future Michael J. Fox where he could do whatever he wanted.
Yeah.
And it's post Videodrome Woods, so come on. Post Salvador. All right.
We're gonna free you from this podcasting prison, Paul.
Well, I had a pleasure. Thank you guys so much for having me, and thanks for talking about this movie. And
Thank you for bringing this wonderful movie into our lives.
Oh, good. Yeah. I'm so glad that you guys liked it. And it's a movie there's a handful of these movies that I feel like people don't know that are fun. Like they actually pay off in a good way without feeling dated or cheesy or something like that.
Yeah, I had always been mean to see it because I love this kind of movie, but it's one of those movies that always gets bumped down the Netflix queue because there's so many more quote unquote important movies. I feel guilted into watching first.
I'm sitting in front of a stack of screeners here. Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah.
I thank you for prioritizing this movie and getting me to watch it, and hopefully some of our listeners will do the same.
I'm sure they will.
Well, so good, guys. Thank you so much, and would love to come on again.
We'll have you.
And you guys got to come on our show.
Would love that. Absolutely love that. Thank you all for listening. Please remember to rate, review, subscribe. Thanks to Ange Fergudo for our social media, Lane Montgomery for our theme song, Pat Reynolds and Joe Bowen for our artwork.
Definitely check out How Did This Get Made. Is there anything else, Paul, that you want to plug?
You know what? Who cares? That's good. That's a good one. Let's do that.
Sure.
Yeah.
You're working on Galaxy Quest now,
I am.
right?
I am indeed, yeah. And we'll hopefully see how that kind of comes together. It's something I'm very excited about. And, it's been a while that I've been working on it, and I will only say that the way I can describe that is when you make a failure in Hollywood, there's one person to blame, and when you make something successful, there's 15 people who take credit for why it was successful. So you have to run through a bigger gauntlet of approvals and opinions on everything. So that is it's getting there. I just actually handed in a script today to my overlords, and then it will hopefully go to Amazon. We'll see how it all goes together.
Well, we all know that Amazon has only made great TV shows, so I'm sure it will turn out phenomenally.
Right. We'll see. I know it's Jeff Bezos' favorite shows, or Jeff Bezos' favorite movies, so that's the only thing we got really going for it.
Is that true?
That is a true statement. Like he
Wow,
sought
a movie.
when Amazon started, he actively sought out the rights to this to make it into a TV show.
Do you think Jeff Bezos started Amazon just so one day he would have enough money to buy the Galaxy Quest rights?
I feel like you know what? I honestly think that there's some truth to that. All right, guys.
Hopefully
Talk to you
we'll
later.
see it soon.
All right,
Thank
bye
you,
for
Paul.
coming. Bye, Paul.
And as always, Dan Hedaya never wears a shirt.